supervises a group of medical and administrative staff over the years. She has counseled hundreds of couples on infertility, as well as education counseling for treatment options such as recipient cycles and surrogacy. As a highly trained and certified sex therapist, she has championed healthy sexual lifestyle and relationship between couples in outside Nigeria. She is the founder of Womanhood with Olori Ajayi Foundation, a not-for-profit organization aimed at reaching out to the less privileged women in society and upholding the virtues of womanhood. The foundation has also been at the forefront of helping women achieve their personal and entrepreneurial goals. It also supports other causes and organizations championing them, such as the Endometriosis Support Group Nigeria, where she serves as a program coordinator. As a firm believer in continuous self-improvement and education, she has attended various trainings and courses at prestigious institutions such as Harvard Medical School, European Society of Human Reproduction and Embryology, and European Society for Sexual Medicine. I present to you Mrs. Tolani Ajayi.
Good afternoon. Standing on the existing protocol. Well, I don't know why everybody's not here. Maybe because we finished talking about drug abuse and it's about infertility now, so people are not really interested. But I can bet you have someone close to you who is challenged. Not a problem. It's always a challenge. So thank you. And when I got the invitation, I was like, what has infertility got to do with drug abuse? And on with Shola. But something just dropped in my mind about 12 years ago. A lady was in the clinic and said, don't you know that people come here and match people? And she analyzed why. And I agree with her because as Africans, something is very, very important to us, and that is childbearing. When a lady gets married, in 3 months, in 6 months, people are looking at her, what are the signs that you can see? Everybody is, expecting. And most of the time, maybe now, people want to need some time, enjoy themselves, get to know one another. Children of nowadays get to know one another before having kids. But in our own time, by the time I got married, I was about 8 months. I think I had my baby exactly a month after our wedding. That's what used to be in those days, but nowadays it's not. So what is infertility? It's the inability of a couple to achieve conception after regular and unprotected sex for a year. So if it's not 1 year, we will not term it as infertility. If you are not having regular sex, then we cannot say it's infertility. And if the sex is protected, then we cannot say it's infertility. So everything must be together. Regular, unprotected sex. So if it's not, then something is wrong. If it's not regular, maybe the husband is in Abuja, the wife is in Lagos, they are not meeting regularly. Then why are you saying it's infertility? You have to meet regularly before something can happen. Because maybe most of the time when you are having sex is not the time to have sex. So we'll first of all tell you to abide by the rules and see what happens. So if it's not happening in 1 year, then we can say it's infertility. And 1 out of every 4 couples is affected in Nigeria. That's shocking. Maybe internet is now helping us. Maybe people are getting more aware that something is wrong, then they need to come to the clinic, they need to seek help. In those days, it wasn't like that. A lot of people ended up not having kids because the information for them was not available. But now it is available. People can read, people can access information, they can access healthcare, and for them to know that something is wrong. So some people should not wait until 1 year before they know that there is a problem. If you have a condition called endometriosis, do not wait until 1 year. If you have a condition called PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, do not wait for 1 year. If for any reason you've tried or you've had your test done as a man and said there's something wrong with your sperm, then do not wait for 1 year before you seek help. And if you're 35 years and above, do not wait for 1 year before you seek help, because something might be wrong. Age is also a factor. And the current trend nowadays is a desire to delay parental to pursue career and academics. There is increase in obesity, there is drug abuse, there is sexually transmitted disease. All these things also are factors that can cause infertility. A couple's relationship often suffers because of fertility problems and its treatment process. So there is a negative impact on intercourse. When people have the challenge of infertility, the first thing that will happen is that they are not having sex as they're supposed to have it. From my citation, you heard that I taught sex. I taught sex, I taught fertility, and I taught relationship. So the first thing to ask is, how often do you have sex? Most of the time, people will tell you, why are we having sex when it's not happening? You know, and the only time they have sex is probably when the woman is ovulating, and that's it has become a it's not the regular sex that is supposed to be between the man and the woman now. It has become mechanical. They are looking at the calendar before they can have sex. The man is at work, is attending a board meeting, the wife is worried that he's not here so that they can have sex because she's ovulating. So that causes a lot of problems. And the man is unable to come home, the wife is angry. By the time he comes home, or maybe even he tried to, the Lagos traffic held him back. By the time he gets home, everything is just upside down. The man is even unable to achieve erection. So the problem is on and on. And conception over pleasure. So it's no more about husband, wife, let's have fun. It's all about having kids. It's all about checking the calendar. It's all about checking when she's ovulating. It's all about not travel now. The doctor said we should meet every 2 days and all that. And it has a lot of negative impact on the family. It has a lot of negative impact on their work, on their social life. And the social stigma from partners, from parents, everybody's worried. The family members are asking what is happening. The mother-in-law will come and tell the man that, oh, I didn't realize that you have a man in the house. And the woman will be the one to tell them what to do, or probably even bring someone to the house of the man to try with so that he can have a child. And also the social stigma from peers, and of course it can lead to the marital breakup. We have a lot of people now that their marriages are no more because of infertility. Because they cannot just understand what is happening, cannot just understand how to cope. And most of the time, it can even be from the man, which I'm coming to, because when we talk about infertility, 30% is from the man, 30% is from the woman, 30% is combined, and the remaining 10% is unknown. So, if 30% is from the man and 30% is from the woman, why are we blaming the women? Why are we blaming the women? Sometimes the man does not even have anything in his sperm. It's just shooting blank. And the woman takes all the blame. Then she gets emotional. She gets really worried. In the office she cannot go. You see her weave on is on for 6 months. She's not bothered. She's not bothered to put on the makeup. She's not bothered to take care of herself. Everybody's looking at her because she's the one that's expected to have the tummy that is bulging. And that's not happening. Nobody looks at the man. And meanwhile, the man is shooting blank. So, what happens? The pressure is on the woman. And she gets really, really sad. And from this summit, I can say that I've had cases where ladies go into drugs because of this. They tend to take drugs to calm themselves. They think they're doing something positive because she's always anxious. But before you know it becomes an addiction. And likewise again, we have some men. Maybe the doctor just told him, "Oh, Gary, you are shooting blank." And it's like, that's not possible. I impregnated 2 ladies while I was in the university. Who told you the pregnancy was yours? Who told you the pregnancy was yours? I impregnated 2 ladies. I even a few months ago, someone got pregnant for me. Or that the sperm says, the analysis says, you are shooting blank. And that's the truth. By the time the reality comes on him, he gets really, really sad. And I can tell you, the emotional impact of infertility when it's on the man is more than that of the woman. A man is walking, is moving around like a corpse, saying that I'm impotent. The one is not impotency because impotency is another thing. But that's the way it looks. I cannot father a child. And even when the treatment comes, when they're able to have a child or when the lady is pregnant, maybe from IVF, then she's pregnant, and it suddenly occurs to the man that truly I cannot father a child because they've done a treatment that requires them using a donor sperm. Then the reality dawns on him. I cannot father a child. The child is not mine. He wakes up every day crying. He wakes up every day sad. And he can turn to drugs. Because the initial thing is, let me take drug to console myself. Let me take drug to calm myself down. Then it becomes a problem. It becomes an addiction. I've seen series of them. I know a man, they're trying to have a baby. The man will get into the bathroom maybe like 8 p.m. and will not leave the bathroom until about 6 a.m. Honestly, it's a true life story. And I was asking, if you're in the bathroom from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m., what time do you have for your wife? When will you have sex? The wife says she's tired. What will you be doing in the bathroom? He said, I will just be reading. I said, no, guy, you're not reading. You are taking something. Eventually, you have to agree that you just didn't want the wife to know. I said, but the wife knows that there is a problem. What will you be doing in the bathroom, taking drugs till morning? You just sleep there, wake up in the morning, and you think everything is fine. Everything is not fine. So that's why I feel that the summit is also very important, in fertility management. So there is a positive outcome. Sometimes, in some exceptional cases, infertility brings a couple together. They work together, they do everything together because they want a solution. And it brings them, together to form a bond, but not in all cases. In most cases, there is anxiety, a feeling of sorry, there is nervousness and unease about something with an uncertain outcome. They don't even know, even if they do IVF is not even 100%, and they're spending a lot of money. A man told the wife, I would rather use that money, the millions of naira they're asking for in a fertility clinic, I would rather take it to the village and marry a woman, and I'm not going to spend a quarter of that amount. That's from a man to a woman, because the problem was from the lady. So, feeling of severe despondency and dejection, and extreme anxiety, sorrow, and pain. Infertility has been ranked as one of the great stressors in life. It is a big stressor. So if you have someone who is unable to have a child in your office, you really need to tread carefully. I remember one of my clients who eventually, after 11 years, had a baby girl. In her office, someone told her and said, I think a lady just, a sister of one of them had a baby, and they were congratulating her, oh, congratulations, and all that. And the one older person now said, oh, I'm losing using that as a point of contact to all the barren ladies in this office. Barren. She meant well. And she has said, especially the chief of, like the one that is oldest among them, I mentioned her name. She meant well. She prayed, but she used wrong words. Barren is such a negative word that should not be heard from anybody's angle. This lady went into the bathroom and cried and cried. She could not do anything in the office. This was some years ago. She could not do anything. The husband came and was really angry too that why would she say something like that? But you know what? She meant well. So when you have people around you who are fertility challenged, please choose your words, even when you are trying to help them. Because sometimes your words can send them to where they want to go. And it can be really, really hurtful when they get some things from you, even though you meant well. So, like I said, it's been ranked as one of the great stressors in life, comparable to divorce and death in the family. It's usually the response to excessive losses and prolonged stress created by the infertility process. So, effects of infertility that is linked to depression, self-discrimination, a feeling of inadequacy, low self-esteem. I cannot have a child. When you use that word, I cannot, you are telling yourself that it's almost like impossible for you. But there is a way out. There is always a way out. And that's why there is IVF for you. Because if you have tried every other thing, you can still do IVF and it will work for you. It will work for you eventually. And blaming on past behaviors, maybe because I had an abortion in the past, that's why I'm able to have a child. Maybe because I jilted someone, that's why I shall not do to me. That's why I'm able to have a child. Most of the time, that's not true. Most of the time, that's not true. It's not what you're going through or what I've gone through. It could be that there is a problem that needs to be fixed. So until we seek the necessary help, then we are just wasting our time. And there is lots of desire for sex and lots of hope. There is strained relationship with friends and family. They are able to attend birthdays, they are able to attend baby showers because of what they're going through. So if you insist, oh, please can you come to my baby shower? She has attended her friend's baby shower the first time, she's attending another one, even the third one, and she's unable to have. Please, when she says no, just let her be. Recently, more attention is being paid to the relationship between infertility treatment and the use of assisted reproductive techniques and the presence of mental disturbances, of which anxiety and depression are the most common. So, there is a therapy. There is a therapy. And that's why counseling is so important when you are fertility challenged. Go for counseling. Talk to someone. How do we go about this? This thing is affecting our relationship. It's affecting our sex life. But you know what? At the end of the day, some people will not have kids. For one reason or the other. Even with IVF, some people will not have kids. So what happens to your relationship? What happens to husband and wife? What happens to the commitment? And that's why the counseling will come in. That either you have a child or you don't have a child, you have each other. And that's so important. So counseling is important. Couples having fertility crisis should have an expert who they can freely approach and talk to. And treatment. Many couples hitherto who press about infertility abort their own children through IVF and other means. So IVF is there for you to access. Don't be too shy, and when you have an cooperative husband, please talk to someone. That person will help you to get your husband to come to the clinic, because most times the man will say, I'm not coming to the clinic with you. It's always the woman's problem inside of the home. But we are seeing that it's not always the woman's problem. And that's something we should all take in. If you are a mother-in-law, don't put the stigma on your son's wife. Don't put the stigma on your son's wife. Help them. I've seen some women. I remember a lady, a woman, she called me, she got my number and called. I want my children to see you. You know, when she first came, then she sent the children. I thought it was the wife that was her own child. It was the man. And it was this woman that, brought them to the eventually they had a set of twins. And they were so happy. The day the lady did her pregnancy test, it was that woman I called. I said, Mama, thank you. Thank you for being an exceptional woman. Thank you for supporting your children. Because it's not just about your son, it's even about the other lady. And in most cases, mother-in-laws are usually, even the educated ones, that is shocking. That is shocking. The little you can do is to help them to get help. The little you can do is to support them with your prayers. The little you can do is to support them with funds that they need. Because IVF is not a joke, they need money. So if you have the funds, support them. Support them emotionally, support them with cash, support them by praying for them. Don't ever send a lady out because she's unable to have a child. What if that daughter is yours in another family? Do you understand what I'm saying? Your son is married, you are against the woman because she's unable to have a child. What if you have a daughter that is married into another family and she's unable to have a child? What will you do? You are going to support her, you are going to take her to places, do the same thing for your son's wife. Let your hopes, not your thoughts, shape your future.
Thank you very much. This is Tola Jai for that presentation. Very, very educative. And one thing you've noticed about this year's summit is that it is rounded. They're looking at mental health from many different perspectives, and we're all connected. And the charge is that we should leave the space to do something. Let's not just listen and go back to normal. We can, in our own way, either by the offices that we occupy or in our personal capacity, can do something. We're going to move very quickly to the next session, which is going to be taken by Professor. All our speakers are doing well today. Please give a round of applause. We should be able to 5 30 minutes we lost when we started. Alright, so Professor Latif Sheikh, and he was speaking on the Vanguard Mental Health Chat Room series. But first of all, we're going to take the citation. Debbie or Debbie? Grace, okay, Grace. So we'll take the citation for Professor Latif Sheikh and then he'll give us his paper.
Citation for Professor Latif Sheikh. Professor Taiwo Latif Sheikh is the immediate past president of the Association of Psychiatrists of Nigeria, APN. He is also the coordinator of the Vanguard Mental Health Chat Room. He is a professor of psychiatry at the Department of Psychiatry, College of Medical Sciences, Vanguard University, Nigeria. An alumnus and faculty member at the Harvard Global Mental Health course of Harvard Medical School. He obtained MBBS degree from the Medical School of Ahmadu Bello University, ABU Zaria, Nigeria in 1985, and MSc in Clinical Pharmacology from the same university in 1992. He is a fellow of the West African College of Physicians, WACP, a faculty member and examiner at the Faculty of Psychiatry, WACP, and an external examiner at the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons. He is a member of the National Action Committee on Mental Health in Nigeria, where he participated in the Division of Mental Health Policy. I present to you Professor Latif.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm aligning by the existing protocol. I don't want not to stand on the existing protocol because I will sleep and fall. So it's better to align. I want to especially recognize and commend the organizers of this program who have been working with for the past 1 year plus. Especially, I want to also recognize my president, the first Black African Nigerian, my brother, president of World Medical Association. I'm very proud of you. I want to also specially recognize the chief executives of federal government parastatals that are here presenting. Representative of the chairman of the acting director general of Vanguard, all other chief executives and directors that are here. My own brother and colleague, Professor Aina, who delivered the keynotes and captured virtually everything that we have in our minds. Thank you, sir. My father's both spiritual and temporal. And of course, this is a journalist show. We must recognize the press all the time. We are partners in progress. I must say that I'm highly impressed with what Vanguard is doing. Mental health, if you read what I write every other week, in days before now, we used to just describe mental health in hush-hush voices. We don't talk about it in public. And believe me, the public is more interested in hearing non-mental health professionals discuss mental health than mental health professionals. If I go to the public, I start talking, they will say, don't come again. But when they see people who have nothing to do with mental health and are talking about mental health, like the nine mobile people, when you talk about mental health, everybody listens. They say, yes, this thing don't touch us. And they pay more attention. So I start with that. Can we go to the next slide? I've been asked to talk about the chat room. Sorry, it's supposed to be an outline, but I think something happened. Can you go to the fourth slide? I have only 5 slides. That's fine. Go to the fourth slide. I think I pushed it back somehow. Like that. Slide number 4, it has the outline there. I'll just talk about the introduction and give us the background of the mental health situation in Nigeria and the world. Just 2 slides. Then I'll talk about the Vanguard mental health charting archives. Then what do we understand by access to mental health services? Then I'll briefly talk about the mental health illness continuum. And then why do we need to invest? Because we have come to understand that this is the language that our leaders understand. When we transmit the language in Naira code, then they tend to understand, give us their ears more. Especially when they hear that this is the amount of money you will get, not the amount of money you are losing. This is the amount of money that will come back to you in return. They tend to also. I must say that I've been able to gather this from the Global Mental Health Program and being a resource person for Harvard Medical School. I recently appointed me as mental health advisor to Africa CDC. So that has brought me face to face with a lot of heads of government in the continent. And they have taught me to know the kind of language to speak when I'm talking to them. So I'm sharing that experience with all of us here. Please go back to slide number 2. Just the background of mental health globally and in Nigeria. Before COVID-19 emerged, statistics on mental health conditions, including neurological and substance use, which is very poor today that we're talking about, suicide risk and associated psychosocial and intellectual disabilities were already started. We all know that mental health is one of the most neglected areas of health in the world, and even worse in Africa. Despite the impact of mental health conditions on individuals, families, and society, there has been very little investment in mental health, particularly when we talk about community-based mental health system. Public expenditure on mental health are very meager, as my president has stated earlier when he was talking about Nigeria. In both low and middle income countries of the world, we spend about 1 to 2% of our health budgets. I'm not talking about total budgets, health budgets. And I'll give you an instance. Sometime in 2018, the health budget of Nigeria was about 6% of the total budgets. And out of that 6%, 3% went to mental health. 3% of the 6%. So you can imagine what we are saying. If you put that 3% make it 100, that 6% make it 100%. It is 3% of that 6% that actually went to mental health. And 80% of that 3% that have gone to mental health actually goes to the standalone psychiatric hospitals. And you know what that means. And that amount that goes to neuropsychiatric hospitals, about 90% is spent on payment of salaries. And the remaining 10% goes for capital projects. So nothing actually goes to the patients directly. It goes indirectly, though, because they are paying salaries for staff as well. But none actually pays for their medication. None pays for their card for registration. None pays for their transport. And he has told us the effect of the burden of mental health on the economy and the burden of economy on mental health. We know that poverty, he said it, that poverty and mental health, they work on the person. And it's not subsidized. The fact is, mental health is not subsidized in Nigeria. We subsidize fuel, but we don't subsidize mental health. I wonder what's going on. We buy fuel, we burn it within seconds, and it never comes back. And yet, that's what we are subsidizing in billions of naira. And we don't subsidize what we safeguard the future of our young people. Dr. Who was talking about child and adolescent mental health. Over 70% of mental health conditions start around the age of 14 years old. And we do know that it goes on to probably the end of life. The burden of mental health care on youth is far much more than what we imagine. 44% of our population are people who are younger than 21 years old. And yet we don't subsidize mental health. We are subsidizing petrol. My president, sir. Professor Anna said president to president talk. We are happy you are here. So thank you, sir. So international development assistance for mental health is estimated to be less than 1% of all development assistance for health. So we have Global Fund, we have PEPFAR, we have this and that. Only about 10% comes to mental health. 99% goes to HIV and other things. Now I'll tell you another slide about that. It took us a war with PEPFAR to allow us to use PEPFAR money for HIV to treat patients who have depression and HIV. It was only the beginning of this year that we were able to succeed. That we can use money PEPFAR has provided for care of HIV patients to treat HIV patients who have depression. That mental health is not part of that. So you can imagine, and these are the things that we are actually facing at the African level. And our direction has changed now. You can fund us, but we will do our programs. You will not fund us and do the program for us anymore. That is the direction of Africa CDC. And Africa CDC is now Africa Public Health Institute. So it has moved from being Center for Disease Control. Now anything that has to do with health for African continents is being handled by Africa CDC. The heads of government approved that in January this year. And that was how they developed the vision for mental health and we keyed into it. So now the direction has changed, and I hope this will come to Nigeria as well. That you can give us grants, but we must develop the programs based on our needs. You can't give us money, you say we treat patients with HIV, and patient with HIV has depression. You are saying we cannot do it. What sense does it make? So these are some of the things that we do. Next slide. Notwithstanding the high levels of mental health disabilities, more than 85% of people with severe mental illness in low and middle income countries do not receive the care they require. We call that mental health gap. In the developed countries, 33 to 50% of patients who have severe mental illness do not access, which means the mental health gap is about 33 to 50%. About 50 to 70% of patients in developed countries access mental health care. But here, only about 15% of people with severe mental disorders access mental health. In fact, in some pockets in Nigeria, it's as high as 90%. We have studies that have been published by a lot of our investigators. Around half, I've said this before, around half of mental health conditions starts at the age of 14. More than 1 in 5 people living in settings affected by conflicts have a mental health condition. And today Nigeria is headquarters of conflicts. Banditries, terrorism, kidnapping, it's all over the place. Which means, take us in this room, more than 1 in 5 of us will have one condition or the other. And the most fearing thing is people who have serious mental condition die 10 to 20 years earlier than other people. Which means me and you here, we are really lucky that we are not under the burden of severe mental illness. We will have gone before now. These are things that are really scary. And I thank God Vanguard is here, and I hope others will join them. There is less than one mental health professional for every. In Nigeria, we have one psychiatrist to about 1.8 million people. And the same story goes for psychologists and mental health nurses. And every day we call it Japa. One psychiatrist, we are expected to have at least one psychiatrist to about 50,000. One psychiatrist to 1.8 million. We have about 300 psychiatrists in the whole country. Now it's less. I'm talking of even 3 years ago. Now a lot of, we train, and we train in West African College of Physicians. We train both West African College and National College. Every 3 out of 5 psychiatrists we produce, they leave within 12 months. 3 out of 5 that we produce, they leave the country within 12 months. Mr. President, very serious, sir. When you have a meeting with our other president, please help us. Thank you, sir. You are a diplomat today. You are not just a Nigerian. Today you are a world citizen. You are a diplomat. And they like listening to you and also. Yes, sir. So I think I will just move on to the next slide and we'll go on. Yes. So let me just talk about mental health chart. What we see here is the debate on the 15th of November last year. This is a product of the first mental health summit organized by Vanguard. After that summit, we sat down, decided that we would create a column, and agreed that I will be writing for the column. And I've been writing for the column since then. Every other Tuesday. So this was announced, and then on the 16th the first king, and then since then, and we have written about so many things in his and was layman's language. So many. We define mental illness and mental well-being. We've talked about depression, anxiety. We've talked about stigma. We've talked about suicide. In fact, there is an NGO, international NGO based in Australia, but they have offices in about 70 countries in the world. They read the article in the Guardian about suicide, and they called me, and today we are partners. We are working together. And there are so many other examples like that. Vanguard goes all over the world. And once they read it, I receive phone calls and emails. But I have an ethical issue there, and I need to let Vanguard know. The editor wants me to send things that patients send to me to publish. And for me, it's an ethical challenge. So I'd rather allow the editor to publish the one they wrote to them, and then I can answer that, but I cannot declare the one that they have written to me. So I hope the editor is hearing me today, because Chioma was on my head all the time. Give us, but I couldn't tell her. But I think we now understand each other. So the mental health chat room, please, you can Google Vanguard Mental Health Chat Room Archive. Then you see a lot of what we have been doing over the year. It's there. Vanguard Mental Health Chat Room Archive. That will do so many things. So you can pick on which one you want to do. So this has really gone, far and wide, and I believe a lot of people are benefiting from it. We share it on every platform. Now, this is part of our own efforts to improve access to mental health. And when we talk about access to mental health, it's not just about keeping a hospital where people can go. Access to mental health starts with advocacy and awareness. Do you really know that you are even sick? Can you attribute the sickness to mental illness? Do you think your lack of sleep could be an emotional problem? Could be a psychological challenge? Do you think your staggering when you are working could be an emotional problem? So it starts with, do I understand I'm sick? Can I attribute the illness to where it is? Do I know that there are services available? Do I know that this illness is treatable? Because these are the determinants of our pathways to care. If you don't know that there is service available, you will not go there. So you understand, yes, there is service available. Where is it? Where can I find this service? In the hospital, traditional healers, spiritual healers. Where is this service available? And can I reach here? Can I get there? So you have Yaba Hospital, and someone is in a village after Badai, and they tell you that the only place you can get there is Yaba Psychiatric Hospital. What do you expect him to do? You don't have money. So that's another problem. So all this together, when you get there, do you get medication? Do you get the kind of quality medication? And have you seen someone who has been there and came back feeling better than when he left? Evidence is. So if you put all these together, this is what we mean by access to mental health care service. What people assume when we talk of access, they just think keep hospital there and people are going. But all these things are very important. They are the determinants of access to mental health care. And that's one of the major reasons why we are writing this in the Vanguard. We created this and we hope others will do to improve access to mental health care, so that people will know, be able to understand the problem, be able to know that treatment exists, be able to know where they can access this treatment, to be able to know that what they do for you there is quality, not they will go and tie you down and be whipping the spirit out of you. So that's what we mean when we talk about access. And what are the things that actually, for us as a community, guarantee this access? Very clear. Number one is governance. If we don't have governance structure for mental health in place, forget it. We have not started the journey. And I praise the Lord State government for that. The governance structure, the instruments are there. The moment those instruments are not there, forget it. What do we mean by governance? You need a commitment by the government. If I have money, I will do this for you. If I have money and there is no strike, I will do this for you. If I don't have money, I will borrow money to do this for you. A commitment by the government. It's not a law. We call it policy. And I'm going to tell you who will do what, when, where, and at what time. And how will the person do it? Strategic plan. You are strategizing. You are not telling the people, if I have money, I'll do it. But Mr. A will do this, he will do it at so place, at so time, he will do it this way and that way. So you have a policy that is matched by a strategic plan. But that is not enough. You must also now tell us how you will do it, implementation plan. These are what we believe that are governance instruments. So that is about policy, just about commitment. However, he's saying if he has money, it means if he doesn't have money, or even if he has money and there is strike, he will not do it. So we now need legislation. Something that will be a law that will make you to fulfill that commitment. You tell your son at Christmas I'll buy you shoe. And then 2 weeks to Christmas, the sister falls sick. And you take the sister to the hospital. I mean, that's fair. And you use the money for the shoe to take care of the sister in the hospital. That is fair. It's not so. It's a commitment. Or if there is a law that says that if you don't buy your son that shoe that you have talked about, you will go to jail. You will borrow money to take the sister to the hospital and ensure that the money for his shoe is there. Which means we need to think outside the box. Things are possible. Possibilities are there. You cannot say because this is not there. You can do it if you really want to do it. And that is the situation of the mental health law of Nigeria, the mental health bill. I've been pursuing this for 6 years. Today, confidently, I'll tell you the mental health bill is still within the National Assembly, yet to get to the desk of Mr. President. It's in the legal unit. And it has been there for over 6 months, I think about 8 months now. It's been there for about 8 months. Now, if I want to give you something, I want to give you 30 naira, and I said, go and bring me 3 sticks of sugar cane, I will give you 30 naira. And you struggle, and you are able to get 2.5 sticks of sugar cane. If really I want to give you, I will say, you have tried, take the 30 naira, go. If I don't want to give you, even if you bring the 3 sticks of sugar cane, I will say this one is not long enough. I'll say this one something chop out for end there. I'll be looking for excuses not to give you. That is the story of the mental health bill. They are just looking for excuses, and I still don't know why. I don't know why. It baffles me. And that is a law that will completely change the landscape of mental health in Nigeria. In terms of access, in terms of funding, in terms of stigma, everything is in that law. I don't know. Maybe you people here will tell me, why is it so? Why is it difficult for Nigeria? For the first 2 years, it dropped. the inception of this particular government, we started it together with the mental health bill. And the mental health bill, together with the national health insurance bill, were the first two health bills to be tabled in the Senate. The health insurance bill has been a law for over a year, and we are still there. So please, I'm throwing this to everyone here. Let it be something for us to talk about. And then finally, or not just one more, we often assume that when you are sick, you are in one pool, which is discreet. When you are well, you are at the other pool, which is also discreet. They are not related, especially in terms of mental health. And that is one of the bases of stigma in mental health. That when they think you have an illness, you will not recover, or you will not be the same, they stigmatize you. But today, I'm telling you, it is a dynamic state. It is a pendulum. We are all swinging with that pendulum between being mentally well and mentally sick. Nobody is constantly at one position every minute, every second, every day, every week. We are all shifting. Where you were an hour ago is not where you are now. This is a fact, it's true. So between illness and wellness, there is that area that we call distress. Distress. What some other people will call stress. People have all sorts of names for it. Majority of us are within that distress area. If you manage it well, it disappears. You don't manage it well, you progress to mental illness. And I've posted something on mental health distress. I gave the story of Mr. John, who had a provision store with his family here in Lagos by the motor park. And there was a riot, there was a fight among rival groups of towns. And it led to some burning and looting, and they burnt his shop. He went back home. For weeks, he wasn't sleeping well, and he wasn't eating. And the wife one day called him and said, "Look, Oga, I noticed you are not sleeping well. When I'm talking to you, your mind is lost. You don't pay attention to things anymore." And finally, she convinced him to go and have a meeting with the pastor. And they went to the church, and they sat down with the pastor. And they discussed, and the pastor raised some funds in the church and set up his business back for him. And Mr. John was okay. He was able to pay his children's school fees. And life returned to normal. He was not sick, but he was distressed. If you don't manage that distress well, it becomes sickness. Majority of us here are in between that. Nobody is ever restricted to one particular point in that pendulum of mental well-being and mental illness. We are all moving. Somebody will bring you a news now that will make you happy. Another news will come that will make you anxious. Another one that will come that will make you sad. It doesn't mean you are sick, but it means that you need to pay attention. So that takes us to, we all have mental health, but very few of us have mental illness. Every one of us, no human being that God has created that doesn't have mental health. We all have it. And we have a responsibility to protect and protect that mental health from being sick, and promote the well-being of that mental health. So we must engage in activities that will promote our mental health, and also engage in activities that will prevent us from developing mental illness, and help those who are mentally ill to recover and be integrated into the society. So everybody has mental health. Nobody is immune. But few of us have mental illness, and we need to help those who have the mental illness to recover. Finally, why do we need to invest? Now, there are. Why do we need to invest in mental health? Studies have shown, including studies, papers, articles published by World Bank. Take depression as an example. Depression costs about $1 trillion globally every year. The cost in terms of not being able to be productive, the cost in terms of the amount of time you spend in the hospital, the amount you spend on medication. I want us to understand there are two types of absenteeism. There is absolute absenteeism and relative one. The absolute one is what everybody sees. He didn't go to work yesterday. But the relative one is worse. He goes to work and is not doing anything. If you are not there, somebody else will do your job. They know you are not there. But when you are there, you are not doing it. They will not assign somebody else to do it. And that's what makes it. And that is what is responsible for this $1 trillion that depression costs the world, me and you, every one of us. However, the good news about it is for every $1 you invest in the treatment of depression, you get in return $3. This has been done, calculated. It's not, we are not saying it because we are mental health experts. This is a fact. For every $1 that you invest in depression, you get in return $3. So who will not want to do that? Mr. President, you have more to do today. We are counting on you, especially our mental health people. We still have a window of time just for the legal department to push to the president. They are giving us excuses. We have gone to them. They say, no, they need to cross this thing. They need to underline this paragraph. What is there? What is there? We don't have the resources to take them to write a report. But we believe that our president will lead us down to the ground. In terms of this. I thank you very much for this.
Thank you very much, Prof. You tried this year. Maybe by next year you get my award. Whatever comes at the mic, he can go on, but I'm sure you are all educated, right? I mean, for me, it's that spectrum, right? We're not, yesterday there was lots of fun about the new narratives, everybody doing their stuff. So, I mean, we're constantly moving on that way, here and there. Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very much. So we're going to go to our next session now, and this is by Dr. Babatunde Fadike. Very interesting topic. Suicide is an illness, not a crime. Okay. All right. But while we're doing that, we're just for your information, we're going to have a photo session in a bit, just so that we can capture this for you. So please, the following pictures are there. Our chairman and president, your plate must be full now. Should I have my own request to the president? Because everybody has been dropping what you should take to Mr. President. So, Nine Mobile, the chairman, the general manager, NAFDAC, Professor Ano, and NDA would like all to have a group photograph. So we'll tell you when we're ready. So please don't go. That's the Thank you. All right. So, this is Debbie. Are you reading the profile for the citation for Dr. Babatunde Fadike, consultant, psychiatrist, suicide prevention initiative of Nigeria, SUPREM, will be our next speaker. Suicide and illness, not a crime.
Still standing on existing protocols. This is a citation from Dr. Babatunde Fadike. Dr. Babatunde Fadipe is a seasoned psychiatrist. He is currently a consultant psychiatrist at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, where he is involved in rendering clinical service, teaching and research. He is also a member of the Suicide Research and Prevention Initiative, an organization that was established to tackle the scourge of suicide through research, crisis intervention, health education, and early treatment of mental health conditions. In the last few years, his practice and research has focused on general adult psychiatry, addiction, social issues in health and among observed populations, and mental health advocacy. He is an affiliate in research at the King's College, London, and a member of the Indigo Network, a collaboration of research colleagues in over 30 countries worldwide, committed to developing knowledge related to mental health. I hereby present to you Dr. Babatunde Fadipe. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please permit me to recognize the #1 doctor in the world, Dr. Abdele, representative of the chairman of the NDLEA, the Director General of NAFDAC, the representative of the Honorable Commissioner for Health. I must not leave out my teacher and trainer, who is the keynote speaker at this event, Professor Owen Aino, as well as my teachers, present and trainers, Professor Sheikh, Dr. Akala, and Dr. Owo has left. I'm here also because one of my teachers, Dr. who is the National Coordinator of SOPIN, is not able to attend this event and recommended that I give this talk on his behalf. So I'll be asked to talk about suicide, a medical challenge, not a crime. That's the title that I was given. I mean, it's very slightly for what is in the book and the handout that's been given to us. I'm going to this topic. Those debates that we have in secondary school, I was almost kind of having those kind of debates in my head. Next slide. So I'm going to talk about a few definitions and then talk about the burden of suicide methods, talk about whether it's a medical challenge, whether it is a crime, and then what we can do to address this scourge, and then we will conclude. As a form of definition, suicide is an act with a fatal outcome, which the disease knowing or expecting a fatal outcome and initiated and carried out with the purpose of provoking the changes that he desired. Webster's dictionary is simpler. It defines suicide as an act or an instance of taking one's life voluntarily and intentionally. Now there are a few other definitions that we should be aware of, and you will understand why as we go on. One is an attempt. What is a suicide attempt? A suicide attempt is a non-fatal suicidal behavior. It refers to intentional self-inflicted poisoning, injury or self-harm which may or may not have a fatal intent or outcome. And then it's also important to talk about suicidal behaviors. Next slide. Next slide. Which we also refer to as suicidality. And this is a range of behaviors that range from having no ideation to making an attempt to end one's life. And all of these are precursors to an individual ending their own lives. Next slide. And you will see on this slide this range of behaviors. So we include people who have no ideation at all. That is, they occasionally have, this all happens to us, but we all think of the time when death will come. But it doesn't mean that we are preoccupied with it. It doesn't mean that we feel that we want to die. And these people are very low risk. And then there are people who have passive ideas of suicide. So they feel sometimes that, well, maybe it would be better if the ground just opens and they fall into it, or something just they sleep and don't wake up. These people admire this, but if they mention it to us as professionals, then we want to pay attention to it. And there are those who have active ideation, who are referred to as having moderate risk and require immediate referral. And there are those who have specific intents. They make plans, they've written their will, they've written a note, they've given out their things. These are people who are high risk and you do not want to live alone. Now, how common suicide? It's a global phenomenon. It is the second leading cause of death in young people, especially those between the ages of 15 and 34 years. And for every person who takes their own life, 20 people have attempted to do that. And it's important to note that for every attempt, as I've defined, the risk is of dying by suicide. It's up to 60 times that in the general population. Suicide is such that, we see children who attempt to take their lives, we see children have been reported who take their own lives, and then in the elderly. So it cuts across all ages. It is irrespective of your pockets, how much money you earn. It is irrespective of gender, even though it's commoner in males compared to females. In Nigeria, the ratio is about 5-1. And it's irrespective of your ethnicity or race. In Nigeria, the reports are conflicting, especially because we do not have adequate data. It is a complex and growing concern, especially because over the years there's been an increase in the rate and the number of people who take their own lives. It is underreported, like I said, because we don't have data, because it's a very sensitive issue, because it's stigmatized. Family members don't report it. Nobody wants people to know that their members or their relatives die by taking their own lives. It impacts families, friends, and communities. It's what we call copycat phenomenon, where because somebody who is popular has taken their own lives, you see people repeating the same method in a bid to take their own lives. There are different methods by which people can take their own lives, but it's important to know that how common methods are in different societies will depend on the availability of the means. So in this environment, people usually take their own lives by hanging themselves, by ingesting sniper, because these things are available, and then jumping into the lagoon. These are the things that we commonly see in the news. Now, to the question that this audience wants to answer, is suicidal behavior a medical challenge? I don't have the answer. Maybe we can agree at the end of this talk. But I think I would like to say that when we talk about the medical challenge, I like the fact that they use the word illness, so it makes it more straightforward. It is similar to saying that you ask whether it is a disease, But it's important to say that as medical professionals, we do not refer to suicide as an illness specifically, because it's not listed in the classificatory systems that we use. So it's not like malaria or typhoid or cancer that you will see. It's also important to know that many psychiatric conditions, however, present with suicide as a symptom. So the same way people who have malaria will present with headache, with fever. The same way people who have other psychiatric conditions may present with thoughts that they are better off dead, and some of them will go on to attempt to take their own lives. But we can try and look at it more critically by asking ourselves what are the things that define a medical condition, and then see whether the suicide may pass as an illness or a disease. One is that a disease must have a cause, and many times, especially with mental health conditions, including suicide. Professor I has talked a lot about the economy, how it impacts our mental health. So, with mental health conditions, we usually talk about the fact that it's an interaction as a result of an interaction between what we inherit and what we're exposed to in the environment. So yes, suicide, there is series of events that can put people at risk of having suicidal ideation. Now, there must be a mechanism for that cause. And what this means is that a sequence of events, once an individual is exposed to that cause, there must be a sequence of events that lead to that disease. Every speaker here has talked about different things, and with suicide, so for instance, somebody becomes unemployed. Because they're unemployed, they have financial problems. Because they have financial problems, they have poor coping abilities, they have poor social support, and they develop depression, they they may then have thoughts of ending their own lives. So again, if you look at it, there is a mechanism. It must have structural and functional abnormalities. I mean, because of the audience, I do not want to bore you with the details, but we know again that in people who have suicidal ideation, there are neurochemical abnormalities that underlie suicide, especially serotonin. Is a chemical in the brain that has been implicated in people who have attempted or have taken their own lives. And then it must have a complication. If people die by taking their own lives, the ramification is enormous, especially for their relatives, their loved ones. In fact, some people even go on to take their own life because a relative has taken their own life, apart from all the other problems that they suffer, including stigma. And then the prognosis. We know that an individual who has attempted to take their own life is at risk of doing it again. So, if we look at this critically, then maybe we can refer to suicide as a disease or an illness. But it's controversial. It's controversial because some people have talked about the principle of autonomy, which is one of the principles that we as doctors, we want, we have to respect our patient. If the patient has cancer, and we agree that they have capacity, which is universal, which is the individual is able to make their own decision until we can prove otherwise, then people, if a patient has cancer, like I was saying, and the person says, doctor, don't touch me, I don't want surgery, nobody is going to take that patient together. So some people have applied this to suicide and say, if somebody says that they're ready to die, they're suffering, life is unbearable, why can't they go? And in some countries, like in Belgium, there's what we call physician-assisted suicide, where physicians assist patients who have incurable conditions to take their own lives. So, I mean, this I just thought that it's a controversial issue, and I think this is something that is worth mentioning. Now, what are the causes? I've said that in mental health, it's difficult for us to say that this is the cause. Like the malaria we know that is caused by Plasmodium falciparum, which is transmitted by a mosquito and all that. In mental health, is a balance of what we inherit and what we have been equipped with to cope with circumstances in life. So it's difficult to nail something and say that this is the cause. But there are several risk factors, include biological, social, physical illnesses like epilepsy, cancer, HIV, increase the risk of people wanting to take their own lives, psychiatric conditions, especially depression, substance use disorders, people who have personality disorders, and previous history of attempting to take one's life are known risk factors. And I will focus on the psychiatric conditions. There's a strong link between psychiatric disorders and suicide, and this has been well established in literature. About 90% of 100 people who take their own lives, at least 90% of them, using what we call psychological autopsy. And what that means is that we go back, examine the circumstances around the person's death by history, by interviewing their relatives, by interviewing their doctors, and we know that 90% of those who have taken their own lives had a mental health problem at the time when they took their lives. And among these people, those with psychiatric disorders, so among everybody who has a psychiatric, 40% of them are at risk of taking their own lives. Among those with depression, about 10% will take their own lives. Most have a history of self-harm, and most of them, interestingly, up to 40% have had contact with the general practitioner or with the psychiatrist in the week before they took their lives. So what this means is that some people actually try to ask for help. Some get it, some don't. You know, and it will interest you. See patients who go on social media, go on friends on WhatsApp and ask their friends, please, I want to die. Can someone suggest a means? And you know how social media is, people are joking and they're actually suggesting to them what to do. Next slide. I won't dwell much on this. I've mentioned this because of time. What are the implications of suicide being a medical condition? What this means for us is that it can be better understood. I mean, if you know that something is an illness, if you know that, I mean, if I come to you and say that I have malaria, you will not feel any way about it. Like Prophet said, so why do you step back when I say that I have a mental illness? And I tell people that anybody that has a brain can have a mental illness. I mean, Prophet said we all have mental health. The only thing is that very few people have a mental illness, and it can be anybody. That's reality. So it helps to understand, understand stigma, suicide better. it reduces stigma. It means that we can identify the cause. It means that we can then, knowing the causes, we can then aim to prevent it, and then we recognize that it is possible to successfully treat it. But there are limitations, and many of these have been highlighted by previous speakers. Professor Shea spent a lot of time talking about the limitations that we have, especially in the mental health bill. We have the mental health bill that refers to people who have a mental illness as lunatics. It's archaic. It doesn't, the law itself is stigmatizing. So many sectors in the government are begging for attention. Prof has talked about insecurity, problems of unemployment in the country, and this needs proper attention. These things are maybe in fairness to government, it's probably preventing the government from paying attention to mental health in itself, because they have many things begging for attention. But again, it tends to increase the risk of people developing mental health conditions and then taking their own lives. Stigma is a very important issue, especially in our environment, and it impacts access to care. It impacts people who don't want to access care. Problem with political will, and this affects data. We need data to plan, we need data to even know what is happening. Funding concerns, access to treatment for people with mental health concerns in terms of availability, accessibility, and affordability. And then we lack enabling levels. This has been said by almost all the speakers. And in Nigeria, suicide is labeled as a crime. Now the next question that we have is suicide a crime? Should suicide be a crime in our environment? The criminal code in Nigeria, section 327, says that any person who attempts to kill himself is guilty of a misdemeanor and is liable to imprisonment for 1 year. The penal code says that whoever attempts to commit suicide and does any act towards the commission of such offense shall be punished with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 1 year, or with a fine, or with both. The Lagos State government has done well, because in 2015 they amended the laws and recommend hospital treatment for people. So Lagos State has its own mental health laws. What we are fighting for is a law that covers everybody in the country. Now, if you look at this map, it shows you the countries in red where suicide or attempts to take one's life, because once someone has taken their lives, there's nothing you can do to them. So people who attempt to take their lives, and Nigeria is one of 20 countries in the world and one of 8 in Africa where suicide is illegal. Attempted suicide is criminalized in Nigeria, yet the rate is high. Like I said earlier, over the last few years, there's been an increase in the number of people who take their own lives or who attempt to take their lives. I work in the university hospital. The number of people that we see, the number of referrals that we get and consults, people who are rushed into emergency, because they have attempted to take their own lives. So, and you expect that, why is it criminalized? It's supposed to discourage people, but it hasn't worked. So, what's the impact of criminalizing suicidal behavior? The impact is multidimensional. It suggests that a distressed individual is a criminal. Recall that I said that up to 9 in 10 people that succeed in taking their own lives have a mental health problem, and up to 1/3 of these have a diagnosis of depression. And yet, the biggest risk factor is the fact that people have attempted to take their lives in the past. Yet, these same people will not receive treatment because they are considered criminals. So it distracts from the need to ensure proper care and treatment and direct resources towards punishment, which hasn't been shown to be effective. It deters people from seeking the help that they need, and individuals will choose to make further attempts rather than in order to avoid legal consequences. I've talked about data, the impact data collection, which is necessary for planning, and in a lot of cases go unreported. And I just picked this up, from the internet. This was someone in 2012 who attempted to take his life by jumping up and was going up a pole and wanted to jump. And they begged him. And then the moment this guy comes down, they pounce on him, they beat him up, and he eventually committed suicide. He took his own life. So, based on what I've said, again, where does the pendulum swing? Do we still consider suicide as a crime? Or we think that these people need help? Does criminalization affect the culture of suicide and suicidal behavior? And you are the jury. I'll let you decide. Why do we need to address this culture of suicide? And how do we address this culture? Next slide. So in rounding up, most of the interventions towards addressing risk factors outside the purview of mental health physicians. We cannot provide jobs for people. You know, being single, unmarried is a risk factor. We're not going to marry wives for people. You know, so it's really the Ministry of Labor, the Ministry of Transport, you know, all ministries. A lot has been said about substance use. A lot has been said about, so now that NDA, all hands need to be on deck, you know, to tackle this cause. There's a need for advocacy, and a lot has been said about that. A lot has been said about the need for political will, and it's important because we need to put all of this in place in order to address suicide. And to successfully achieve this, barriers, especially laws that criminalize suicide, need to be abolished, because this will aid reporting all suicidal behavior as well as people who have taken their own lives. In conclusion, we talked about suicide, suicidal attempts, and suicidal behavior. We recognize that suicide is a major burden with enormous untoward impact on individuals, their loved ones, and the community, yet it is unreported, and the cause is multifactorial. It remains criminalized in parts of the world, including Nigeria, with negative impacts. Individuals are not in need of punishment but of treatment, and there is a need for multi-sectoral collaboration to reduce rates. We therefore need to decriminalize suicide by repealing Nigerian suicide law. I'm a psychiatrist and I use every opportunity to talk about stigma in mental health. We all need to stand up against stigma. Prof said this earlier, there is no health without mental health. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fadibe. And I think that helps us to segue to the final paper presentation for the panel session. And this talks about coping with the stigma of mental disorders. This will be taken by Ms. Titi Tade, Deputy Director of Medical Social Services Youth, Training Coordinator for SOPE. And citation read by Comfort. Alright, so yes, so this will be the last paper presentation, and then we'll have the panel session.
Citation for my guest speaker, Mrs. Titi Tade. Mrs. Tade is the Deputy Director of Medical Social Services at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital and the Training Coordinator for Suicide Research and Preventive Initiative, SOPE. She is a member of the Youth Health Research and Ethics Committee. She supported the establishment of the SOPE hotlines in 2017. In youth, Ms. Tade lectures in various schools and has practiced as a medical social worker across various fields, including mental health, pediatrics, disability, assisted fertility, and reproductive health. She lectures in the Department of Social Work, University of Lagos. She is a pioneer HIV/AIDS hotline trainer for the first HIV/AIDS hotline in Nigeria. As an experienced trainer and facilitator, Ms. Tade has also worked and provided training facilitation in diverse communities in Nigeria, Senegal, Uganda, South Africa, Canada, and Italy. She is also a board member of several non-profits, including SOPE, Benula, a cerebral palsy initiative, and Make Me Walk Well Foundation. Ms. Tade is a fellow of the Leadership in Environment and Development International LEAD. I present to you Mrs. Lai.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We've been told not to stand on existing protocols, but I'm wearing these shoes, so I'm going to have to stand on existing protocols. Because I'm not wearing these shoes for nothing. So, first and foremost, I'd like to say thank you to Vanguard for having me here. I was here last year. It's an opportunity to talk about passion for me, mental health, and like Dr. Fadipe said, anytime you want us to talk about mental health, we'll be here to talk about mental health. I'm a medical social worker at Lagos University Teaching Hospital. Please can I have my slide? Unfortunately, I don't have my slides in front of me. And I'm going to be talking about stigma, how to cope with mental health stigma, and the Luth experience. But also the surfing experience. You see in the program, it's called the Luth surfing experience, and I explained to you why it's called the Luth surfing experience and why we're now just surfing. Okay, while they're trying to pull up my presentation, I will tell you what stigma is. Stigma is a discrediting label. When we say it's a label, you know what a label is? A label is what you put on your clothes. A label is what you put on a bottle, so that people will know what it is. So it's the label that society puts on somebody. It doesn't mean that person has an issue, but society says this person has this problem, so we're going to label that person this way. And it's discrediting, because what it does is it belittles the person, it makes the person less than what they are. Because all we see when we see the label is, when they say somebody has a mental illness, all we see is what? The mental illness. We don't see the person behind the mental illness. I was struggling with my slide. I'm going to try and pull it up on my phone, if you don't mind. Unfortunately, I'm also going to have to pull off my glasses little age. I can't see without I'm sorry. I don't have to pull off my glasses for a second. So, I'm trying to stigma. So I'm going to talk about what the types of stigma. I'm going to talk about three broad types of stigma. One, social stigma. Social stigma refers to the stigma that is perpetrated at people who have mental illnesses. And this is at society. And I say it's broad because it covers everything. It covers what we say structural stigma, that Dr. Fadipe and Professor Sheikh example, where we have our mental health bill, and yet it hasn't been passed, and we don't understand why it hasn't been passed. We don't have encompassing laws that would address issues for people with mental illness. But we also have what we call self-stigma. Self-stigma comes up because of societal stigma, because of social stigma. When people have mental illnesses and society says they're less than, they start believing that they are less than. So when society tells them that there's something wrong with them, they also think there's something wrong with them. They start self-isolating, they start withdrawing, and it feeds into that circle. Because once they self-isolate and they withdraw, people will say, that person, there's something wrong. And what happens is that, it just keeps going round and round. But I mentioned two broad topics, but the third one, okay, so thank you very much. So, I have to know my glasses. So the third one is stigma in healthcare. Stigma in healthcare falls under social stigma, but I pulled it out specifically because a lot of people will find it strange that we're talking about stigma in healthcare when it comes to people with mental illness. Don't they go to the hospitals for treatment? But we'll address this. This is stigma perpetrated by healthcare providers. Next slide, please. Thank you. So what are the causes of stigma? Fear. Fear of the unknown. What we don't know, we don't understand, we are afraid of. What we don't know, what we don't understand, we are afraid of. Ignorance. Fear a lot of times comes from ignorance. We don't have information about something. Instead of seeking information about something, we shy away. We don't ask people. We don't tell people that we don't know. So we come up with all sorts of things. There's intolerance. Because there's something we call othering. When we feel people are different from us, we other them, those people. And once we start mentioning those people, we start treating them what? Differently. We develop some level of intolerance for those people. There's a lot of denial because we know that in Nigeria, Professor Ayot once gave a lecture and talked about how suicide has been lost for so long, but we try not to talk about it culturally. If we read, I think Chinua Achebe, Okonkwo died by suicide, Shongo, Prof, I remember the lessons well, died by suicide, so it's with us, but we don't talk about it, we try to deny it. And because we know that when they go and find out about, they want to get married, we say there's mental illness in that family, so we try not to talk about it. And there's a lot of misinformation about suicide. In Roots, they have one word. If you see that word, mad people. If you see them, they lock them up, there's a cage there. If you come to the psychiatric ward like this, big padlock. Nothing like that. There's so much misinformation. And one of the contributing factors is even though we're here on behest of Vanguard, I'll have to say this, because Vanguard falls under the media. A lot of misrepresentation in the media. And not just the mass media, print media, but we see a lot of things on social media. We see Nollywood movies. Every time they depict somebody with a mental health issue, what's the person doing? He's by the roadside, he's dirty, he's picking something up. They never show a CEO with depression who's hiding from people in his office because he's so afraid of, or he's anxious. He's so afraid of talking to people. We never see that. We only see the people by the roadside. Culture and religion is the village people. Every time there's somebody with a mental illness, the village people have come. And then the religion backs it up by saying it's a demonic attack. Dr. K from NDLA talked about, I'm sorry, I didn't get the name, sorry, you helped me with the name. I don't know the name of that drug. That you said it sounded like a demonic attack. But that is Aposora. That sounded like a demonic attack, you understand? But that's the mentality. It's demonic. People from the village are after us. And previous experiences based on the fact that you might have been strolling down the streets in Lagos and some patient with mental health issues whose background has chased you, or you've heard of somebody who has been chased by somebody, and everybody gets a little scared, or you may have a personal experience in a mental health institution with a healthcare provider who stigmatizes you or stigmatizes a family member, and you feel that I'm not going to go back there. So you feed the information. Next slide. So what are the consequences of stigma? Poor health seeking behavior. A lot of people have spoken about it. One of the consequences of stigma, because we don't want to talk about it, is they won't come to the hospital. Studies have shown that people with mental illness have less access to primary health care because they are afraid to get there. When you are taking history, they'll tell you, so what medications are you on? What condition do you have? They're afraid to tell people that I have a mental illness. They receive inferior care. Studies have also shown that they receive inferior care for other problems. Because they get there and they start saying, I have a headache. What is, he has a history of mental illness. Somebody will say, maybe he doesn't really have a headache. His mental illness at what? At work. There's discrimination. They can't get jobs because nobody wants to hire them. People with mental illness can't rent accommodation. I've had patients who have been given quick notices by their landlords because they had an episode at home and the landlord said, I don't want somebody with this illness, it's evil spirit in the house. They chase them out. So it's tying it to what we're talking about, a distressed economy. People who have an illness, they can't work, they don't have accommodation, they can't even buy medication. They afford to buy medication to help themselves. And then we've talked about this, there's an increased risk of suicide amongst people with mental illness because of stigma. Next slide, please. So how do we reduce mental health stigma? And there are several WHO recommendations. I picked this four because I think they're very relevant for us in Nigeria. 1, education, community awareness, advocacy for our mental health bill, and improving access to treatment, care, and support. Next slide, please. So what is the youth experience? Now, our youth is the Lagos University Teaching Hospital. Our primary mandate is to provide what? Training and health treatment, healthcare. Now, Luth has a psychiatric department that's very vibrant. You can tell by the fact that Professor Ino is here, Dr. Fadipe is here, and by association, I'm here. I'm here, you know. So we just have a very vibrant mental health department. We do trainings. We train nurses, psychiatrists, psychologists, medical social workers, and within the hospital, I talk about healthcare providers stigma. Within the hospital, one of the things we try to do to address stigma is continued education. We train and retrain staff. During the ground rounds, we have what we call ground rounds. They're training for staff, explaining why when people come in with certain symptoms, this is what to expect, this is what to do. We provide a patient-friendly environment. If you come to our ward, you don't see big kids. You see flowers, you see paintings, chessboards, and all those kind of things. We try to provide a patient-friendly environment. Then we have, I'm so sorry, that's supposed to be just staff emotional services clinic. We have, because we're aware that even our staff, they're human beings. And as Professor Sheikh explained, they're extreme at any point in time as human beings before we get that extreme. There's an opportunity for staff to access support so that they don't feel like they're being stigmatized within the hospital system. The hospital realizes that you have challenges. We have a way for you to address those challenges. But that is within the hospital. How do we address the larger society? Professor Ino mentioned during his keynote address the fact that several of our LUT staff have gone on to establish non-governmental NGOs, and SERPIN is one of the non-governmental NGOs. Dr. Fadipe talked about a number of cases coming in with people who had attempted suicide, people coming into the hospital. It was because of that that SERPIN was born. SERPIN is called the Suicide Research and Prevention Initiative. Next slide. Next slide. Alright, so it was launched in 2017 and it was called Youth Stopping. Today it's no longer called Youth Stopping, it's just called SERPIN. Now, it was established for the purpose of suicide prevention through research, crisis intervention, health education, and early access to treatment. In 1997, Youth funded it for the first 2 years. They provided hotlines so people could call and they could receive counseling, but they could also book appointments if they wanted to in the hospital instead of looking, because you don't look at the referral-based hospital, you can't walk in. But if you call the suffering hotline, we could book you an appointment. So that service was provided by the hospital. For the first 2 years, if you look at towards my left, you'll see that the reasons for people attempting suicide the most when they called us was surprisingly relationships and mental illness. Dr. Fadipe mentioned it. Mental illness. People who wanted to take their lives have a period of mental illness or relationship issues. I always tell that I don't understand what it is about relationship issues. That kind of people, you know, as we saw it recently, the young lady from DSS that jumped off a bridge, you know, so it's scary. Finance was number 4. In 2019, finance was number 4. Our updated statistics is not here. Finance is number 1. And we know why finance is number 1. 2020, pandemic, and then after the pandemic, just sort of global meltdown. So the reality is we can't talk about mental illness, talk about suicide without talking about the issue of finances. Now, SERPIN, after 2 years, the hospital, Youth funded it for 2 years. But because we had a hotline, people would call, we had people calling from Ghana. We had, you know, someone called for, someone actually reached out to us from India. And we were like, what do we do? Somebody's in Kafancha, somebody's in Port Harcourt. We now started calling mental health professionals in those states. So gradually, people started getting involved. And something grew out of youth. It wasn't something that we could manage any longer. And today, 2020, Youth SERPIN became a full-fledged NGO, no longer sponsored by Youth fully, but still supported by Youth. We still have a Youth SERPIN office. So today, SERPIN is in 35 states, including the FCT. And all activities are based on WHO recommended interventions. Next slide, please. And I'll quickly go through some of the things SERPIN has done. Improving access to treatment and care. One of the how to reduce stigma. What has SERPIN done? No, please go back. Oh, thank you. Next slide. Yes. So the hotline was created to provide information, anonymous counseling. Very important, anonymous counseling, because people don't want to walk in and say, I'm going through this. And referrals. So, because we're in 35 states, we can refer people. You can come from Kafancha and we'll say we have one mental health specialist. It may be a journey, but you will get there. They will see you. We'll call the person will see you. We went toll-free in 2022, June 2022. Between January and October 2022, we received 163 calls. 44% of those calls were from people who were counseled on the phone. About 20% of those calls needed physical referrals. We had to refer people. There were things that could not be handled on the hotline. And within 30 states, we refer people. Next slide, please. Education. What has something been doing? Providing training to primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions. Professor Sheikh talked about everybody having mental health. And I know when people say mental health, they react, well, we talk about physical health in schools. So why can't we talk about mental health in schools? If a child comes and says, we're talking about physical health in my school, the parents is like, if they're talking about mental health in my school, they say, what? As a reaction. We need to be talking to them at an early age. So starting in the past, we had drama competition. Last year, we had a national secondary school debate. This year, we had secondary school and tertiary institution research competition. So they sent in research proposals. The top 3 secondary schools and top 3 tertiary institutions were given cash prizes, and they'll be supported in the next 1 year to carry out their training with seed money and mentoring. And this is to engage young minds around mental health, get them impassioned about it, and we told them to talk about topics that are particular to young people today surrounding mental health. We do training of school teachers and counselors as well. Next slide, please. Okay, community awareness. Prof mentioned media practitioners and responsible reporting of suicide. Something has been doing trainings for media practitioners about responsible reporting of suicide. The WHO recommended training, because we can't talk about someone who took his life and mention the breach. We can't mention the medication. We can't mention those things. Those are things that we need to know. And at the end of every article, there has to be a phone number, a website, somewhere that if somebody is going through these emotions, they can reach out to call. So something has been doing trainings around that. We've trained religious leaders in Ife and Lagos State. We had a program in NAFTA where we did training for young pharmacists. We're in Unilag, CMUL, Unilori, and presently we do a monthly program on Telegram. We call Time Out with Something. We discuss different topics. We went on Twitter Space for the first time last month, and we talk about challenges of the elderly, because we know that the elderly really, there are a lot of mental health issues that develop, loneliness and all of those things that are not addressed within our society, especially elder abuse. And then what are our challenges? Human resources. Prof said it. We have one psychiatrist to 1.8 million people. Luke has the only, and I'm saying this with a lot of swag, Luke has the only psychiatric, the only school that teaches psychiatric social work in Nigeria. But as I say it with a lot of swag, because we're the only school. We've trained less than 500 social workers in mental health in the country. So what we're saying is that there are less than 500 trained social workers who are trained in mental health in the country. And that is, the numbers are not something we can look at. Brain drain, Japa pandemic. We had the COVID pandemic, we're having Japa pandemic now. Everybody, anything, 1 minute you're smiling, the next thing you see the person on social media, they're outside the country. It's really affecting the funding. Funding is a huge issue. We went toll-free, 9 Mobile, I'm smiling. We went toll-free, we're looking for funding, because the truth is, a lot of activities that we've done by SOPIC is member funded. A lot of our members across the state have been paying dues, they support us, we do personal donations amongst members, and occasionally we get donations, but to sustain what we've been doing, we need funding. Then identifying community-based partners. The reality is, We need, Dr. Fadi talked about multi-sectoral collaborations. We need to work with all government agencies, but they're community-based agencies. In the Igbo culture, you have the age grade, you have all those things. We need to work with all those groups and be able to reach into, if we train people in the Southeast, for example, about mental health, about suicide, if somebody in the community attempts suicide, they know it's not a secret problem. They can pick the phone and call the hotline. That who can we send this person to, or where can we send the person to? So we need a lot of collaboration on that level, and we're always looking for that collaboration. Next slide, final slide. I always tell people that, like I said, we talk about mental illness. It's something that's in the shadows, in the dark, and we need to constantly pull it into the light, because what is in the light, everybody can. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that very, very enlightening session. We're going to the final session for today, which is the panel, and I'm going to call up the moderator for that session. Please welcome with me Dr. Olufulaya Akinola. Dr. Olufulaya Akinola. Okay, so she's a chief consultant, psychiatrist, federal neuropsychiatrist, hospital annex Oshodi, Lagos State, and she will be introducing our panelists for this session. You have a big assignment today, and that is, we're going to give you just 30 minutes. Yes, for everything. And give you 10 minutes for Q&A. Yes, so that's a big task. Once you see me standing, just know that it's time for Q&A. Thank you. Let's give her a round of applause again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. And I want to believe that we've had a good day so far. A lot of information that we have received today. So we have 30 minutes for this session. I'm going to call up our panelists so that we'll be fast about this. We heard about their citations, so I don't think I need to introduce them anymore.
Sorry to interrupt. Please, we want to do the photo session outside, so please, Doctor, just step outside for a minute. The chairman and president, the heavy portfolio. Dr. Monica is Professor now, and then Sarifa is just about to the red carpet for the picture. Thank you. And Professor Sheikh, please. It's not an after doctor. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we can as well go ahead. So I'm going to call 3 of the people that are supposed to be up here. We've called them out. So let's call the remaining 2. So I'll call Dr. Fadi to come upstairs. Okay, upstairs and up the stage. Please, a round of applause for him. And I'll call Ms. Sari, our social worker. So while we are waiting, we are expecting Dr. Monica and Professor Sheikh and Professor Amano to join us. Please, can you? Thank you. Okay. So I don't think it will take a long time.
Call you later. Call you.
Okay, so while we're waiting for them, I think I should stand in the middle. Okay. Yes, so we had a good day so far with a lot of information. So who's going to get out the cards? Our social worker, just head. Okay. So, and we talked about stigma, which is very, very important. So, we talked about stigma against our patients, isn't it? So, what was stigma within the healthcare workers? So, can you say, what can we do to reduce stigma even amongst us?
So, all right, so, I mentioned stigma, healthcare stigma, and usually it's not mental health towards it. But, you brought up a very topical issue. So, for people that practice mental health, you get this reaction when you see a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and there is actually real stigma against people, mental health professionals amongst other healthcare providers. And the reality is not because they think you have a mental illness. The fact that anything that's tagged mental illness is a negative connotation. So once they say you're a mental health professional, this person is treated, amongst colleagues. The only thing we can do is what we're doing now within the healthcare community. Doing a lot of education, re-education. I know that I don't maybe at BSc level for doctors, is there exposure to psychiatry? Maybe we need to start doing it earlier than this, maybe when they're doing their residency. I don't know whether they do their posting. As a social worker, I know that we don't have any exposure at BSc level to such things. So most of our students in the first cohort, there's a lot of fear. And these are social workers who are practicing. There's a lot of fear. But by the time they get into the program, they interact with the patient. And that's another thing about reducing stigma. Interaction. So once they interact, they settle down, they realize there's nothing to fear. So within ourselves as healthcare providers, we need to ensure that once starting from the point of education, the exposure is there, the interaction is there. We need to continue training and retain training. Even within the hospitals as we're practicing. That's the only way I think we can address the issue of healthcare stigma between, or one of the ways. I don't know whether anybody has something. Yes.
Just to add that one of the major areas of interventions that we show to improve stigma is contact. It makes sense because people have stereotypes of people who have mental health problems, and they are seen to be, they're referred to as dangerous, unpredictable, that they won't get well. So, but when they interact, when they have contact with these people over time, there's a tendency for the stereotype to change. One example is, for instance, I work in university hospital, has about 700 plus beds, and we have a mental health ward that's separate. And it's so bad that sometimes you have a patient that's referred from the neuropsychiatric hospital where Dr. Akinola works to Lutz, and the first person that they are calling from the emergency is a psychiatrist. And they're saying, for psychiatrists to have referred the patient to a university hospital means that this person has a problem that they are not able to address. So what has been done in some parts of the world is to manage patients who have a mental health problem on medical wards, on surgical wards, so that the surgeons, the physicians will see that, well, contrary to what they thought, it looks like these people may not be as dangerous as and as a matter of fact, research has shown that patients who are mentally ill are not more dangerous than you and I. As a matter of fact, they are more likely to be victims of violence than to be the aggressor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fari. Ms. Gadi, I like the point when you talked about education. I do know that Association of Psychiatrists in Nigeria talked about that a while back. I think maybe when you were president, about because presently, or when I was in medical school, We spent only 1 month in the psychiatric department, and that was the final year. And of course, 1 month is not enough. By the time we graduated, we forgotten everything. So what was the plan of APM? Like Mr. said, I think all cadres of healthcare practitioners should have more education while they are training, so that that stigma, even amongst us doctors, we know the level of stigma that we go through. What's your thought on that, sir?
Thank you very much. Let me first and foremost say that the content of mental health in our education when training people for basic qualification is very small. For medical students, for nursing students, for social working students and things like that. But I want to highlight one or two things here. I published a paper, an article in the International Journal of Clinical Practice. I did a study on the stigma toward the mentally ill among health workers in Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital. And I compared the staff of the teaching hospital with the university lecturers, using university degree as a baseline among them. And you can check that publication, it's there. It's so horrific, the amount of stigma that health workers have towards mentally ill as compared to university lecturers who are not health workers. Is so deeply seated among health workers, much more than university staff who are not health workers. So there is a huge problem. The second thing I want to say is, in 2005, I was the head of the Department of Psychiatry at Ahmadu Bello University. And we had a magic order to close down all satellite teaching hospitals and move to Shira, Zaria, as one entity teaching hospital. And before then, the Department of Psychiatry has always been outside the main teaching hospital. It was a Herculean task for me as head of the department to be able to integrate psychiatry into the new teaching hospital setting. All other heads of the department had a meeting in my absence and decided that psychiatry is not welcome. And it took a lot of memos, a lot of letters, a lot of before psychiatry could now move there. Of course, psychiatry is there for who we have a comprehensive center there. Now, if you say they should move psychiatry out of the teaching hospital, it is the other service department that will say no. They now understand the relevance because of this laser consultation. We see patients in gynae ward, see patients in surgical ward, and so on. The first patient I dropped from the third floor in AP Teaching Hospital in 2006 was a surgical patient who had surgical psychosis, bone psychosis, and they did not invite us. And the patient got through the window on the third floor, and that opened everybody's eye. So, what I want to say is integration is key. To integrate mental health into all levels of healthcare delivery system, from primary care to secondary care to tertiary care. That is key to addressing stigma, and that is key to task sharing and task shifting. Because when you have it among you, you will learn about it. You see them next to you, you learn about it. You develop a skill about it, and it will reduce stigma. There are so many other ways to do it, but I think this is very important.
Thank you very much, sir. So because we have very limited time, I do know that Dr. Farife also works with Supan, yes, and most of the data you have is from your work with Supan, and of course, what Mr. Farife also said. How do you get funding? Mr. Davis is two branches. One piece is only one. How do you get funding for your grants? You as a social worker, So when we are talking about a depressed economy, so your clients in youth, and those that are suicidal, the suicide attempts, most times because there are financial implications, how do they get finance? We talked about going into the community. So have you ever looked about getting in touch with women leaders in the community? Because they say if you train a woman, then you have trained the whole nation. So I want both of you to talk about that briefly.
When girls come into the hospital with money, I think 1 out of every 100 offers money for psychiatry. Money for psychiatry. We beg, we plead, and people do not. That's how bad the stigma is. They do not want to be associated with stigma. When donors come in, we have to give us some money. We have patients with psychiatry, no, they don't want to hear it. It's a huge problem. It is a huge problem, and the reality is, until this issue of stigma is addressed in the community, we will continue saying that. Going out, even if we go out and plead for money on their behalf, it's always an issue that, social workers never give us any money in psychiatry to help with that patient, because the donors don't give us the money to give you. And we're not going to use their money for what they didn't ask us to do. That's the reality. So the truth is, we still need to do a lot of education. The religious leaders, for example, we know that most people in Nigeria will go to the religious leaders, gatekeepers, friends of churches. So we're trying to work with churches, mosques, trying to get them to refer people and get us to do talks in the institutions, so that people are able to more open to the ideas of actually helping people that have mental illness. Because like they say, 1 in 4, it's us. It's not 5.
Thank you. Just to clarify, you're asking with how something gets funding. Okay, so I think we started. Yes, I think we started with whatever she said. She's probably more understand than the one is. Especially because I haven't been hands-on for a while. But I also know that we, as SOPIN, also work, we're involved in training. So for instance, what's that organization called? The Education Launch, where we train teachers. Yeah, so we work with certain organizations where we train teachers and all that, and it is paid for. We've had partnerships with MTI in the past to train people who are able to identify people that are at risk of suicide. Oh, really? Okay. So but that was supposed to have been paid for, but again, so these are some of the ways that, but again, like Mr. said, it's part of the stereotype. People think that why should they invest in mental health, because people will never get well anyway, so why should I spend my money on it? It's not. So they rather give money to cancer, to HIV,
Thank you very much. So what's the final thought on that? I think that we need to do more advocacy on funding, because when people call you and because of their suicide attempt or suicidal ideations, they're thinking about it. It's because they don't have money to pay their bills, they don't have money to pay for school fees. So you, as the officials and super, what are you going to do? Where do you get, so you admit the person, and where do you get money? So you need to do a lot of advocacy and funding, maybe like getting around funds. The people in the community should give money into that fund, so when you need it, then be able to use it as too. Thank you so much. So, okay, I'm thinking, who should I call next? Let's go to NAFDAC. Sorry, I'm sorry. Yes, we know that you've done a lot in recent times on supply reduction and all that. And we are really trying about the demand reduction, so we have the rehab centers and that help people. Can you just tell us we know that this substance use is a relapsing thing. and go in and out. And talk about cure for them. It's like a circle. You get them well up to a point, something will happen, then you relapse, it starts back. So after you discharge them from your rehab centers, what are your follow-up plans? Do you have follow-up plans in place? Because we know it is a relapsing thing. And also, your chairman said, you at one point talked about for couples that are going to get married, that they should have, I think, counseling about if they are using drugs or not. What informed that decision? Have you started, is it working? For example, I saw a couple yesterday. They've been married for a while, over 10 years, and the woman said after that apparently her husband has been taking it, smoking in their hand before they even got married. And of course, by the time they got married, he persisted, and that was when she knew that this is a problem. So after a while, he will cry, he will say he will stop, and he will continue to stop for a while, then he will start again. So now the man is on loud that he talked about. So she said sometimes she wakes up in the night and she will find him, he has already taken it and he's just swaying on his feet, he's fast asleep. Sometimes he'll go into the car to go and smoke it. So it's affecting his work now. So the thing is, if you say they should go for counseling, they are so intelligent, people that take substances. So they will stop you for that period that they are going to do counseling. And you do a urine toxicology, you won't find anything in their urine. So I think you should just tell us and educate us about this. What is your follow-up plan after discharge from rehab? And what were the things that informed the decision that you should have? I think, well, don't let me talk for us. As for me, it's really going to work if you do counseling. So if they use substances, I need to tell them don't get married. So that's for the NPA. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. First on the rehab centers we have across the country. We believe that for the period where clients stay in the centers, is bringing professionals, medicals, social workers. Of course, the job of NDA popularly is supply reduction. But most times we find that substantial ratio of our supply reduction end up in drug abuses. So, in between, I think the criminals or the victims will set up rehab centers. Now, maybe like 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, and you get some kind of certification by partners, medical experts. You say, well, this guy is okay, let him go. I guess that's where we are. At that point, we believe that the family members have a role to play. So we release them to their families. And after that, we do what we call after rehab follow-up services. The NDA officers in the counseling department follow up and get feedback from the family. This we do in all our services. Whether the persons will go back, talking about relapse, this matters arising. But however, that is a core function of the rehabilitation centers in all the NDA offices. On the issue of drug tests for couples who are getting married, the chief executive is being sympathetic towards social consequences of families. And he is thinking that there are different areas where the NDLA can intervene in the society. That's having being socially intelligent. It's not only the families, it's not only about marriages. You said it's about politicians who want to go into offices. You said that about schools, manipulation program. It's like, let's start early. Don't let's get into 7 years of marriage before you discover that the man is being on, or the woman is being on drugs. And therefore, again, matters arising. The man cannot. There are so many things that the drug is connected to. He's not responsible. He doesn't know where to put his he's buying cars, he's building houses. These are mental issues. So I believe that the German executive is looking at, can't you prevent these problems before you enter into the contract of marriage? Why don't we help you determine whether is your partner is on drugs? It's really an advice. It's advice. It's not the law. It's not like if you do not come for this service or this counsel, you will not marry. That's not it. It's like, well, being socially intelligent in our situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Prof, yes, have a comment.
I just want to make comments here. I'm Sakar, I'm a doctor, I'm a carer. I empathize in a compassionate manner. I know that our approach to substance use disorders is both demand and supply reduction. And it's a fact that substance use disorder is captured within the International Classification of Diseases and ESM also. So it's an illness. And its addiction is a chronic relapsing disease of the brain. That is clear-cut description of addiction. I don't want to go to the technical aspects. It's a chronic relapsing disease of the brain. So when we are looking at how to deal with it, yes, we know there is supply reduction and demand reduction. NDLA, with all due respect, we've done so well in terms of supply reduction. Absolutely. Nobody can argue about that. However, we need to understand the difference between the two. Supply reduction is enforcement. Drug law enforcement agency. It's enforcement. It's not compassionate. Demand reduction is compassionate. It's about care for the sick. Someone that is ill. If you have drug problem, you are sick. And enforcement cannot address it. It is compassion and care and treatment that will take care of that. So for me, I have difficulty in seeing NDLA going into demand reduction. They can empower centers that are specifically created to address demand reduction. Hospitals, rehabilitation centers, but they are not trained to be able to themselves organize a rehabilitation center. And someone that is sick has no business being in an enforcement center. We do that to prisons too. We tell wardens, we tell prisons that once they say this person is sick, he has no business being in the prison. Send him to the hospital where he will get treated. But you cannot say doctor should come to the prison to treat him. So if someone has a drug-related problem, not a career, but someone that is sick, I think NDLA should develop a way of supporting centers, other centers that are specifically, they have the personnel, they have the mandate that for research, for treatment, for you understand, for training to deal with that. Because once you are trained as an enforcer, it's difficult for you to practice as an empathetic, compassionate carer. That's the way I see it.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me,
Yes,
I think I need to correct an information here. The NDLA is set up by the legislation, and I'm going to refer Prof to take a look at the legislation. There's a section of the legislation that created a department for drug demand reduction. So we are compliant with that legislation. Your position is prescriptive. That is your wish. And I need you to emphasize it that it's your wish. The NDLA has a business, that's what I want to correct. The NDLA has a business by legislation. We will have failed if we think by your prescription. Not doing the DDR. I just need to make that clarification. We are compliant. And I think you are being prescriptive. Thank you very much.
I understand, sir. What I'm saying is that department, rather than, yes, you have that, and there is a department that looks after demand reduction. It should be supportive of centers that have been created to deal with demand reduction. That department has that responsibility to deal with demand reduction, but not necessarily to deal with it directly alone. You can use that department to support agencies that have been established to deal with sicknesses. That's my, like you said, it's a prescription. Absolutely. I am aware of your law. I know all those things. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So let me just mention 1 or 2 centers where we have good drug demand reduction treatment. Like you said, our psychiatric hospital, Abeokuta, psychiatric hospital, Yaba. We have the Benin, then we also have Luz and Kaduna. So please, these are centers that are, well known, trained, they do research and all that. So before I'm told to keep quiet, I have a question for Professor. Thank you very much for your lecture, sir. At the end of the lecture, you talked about things that we can do. Good personal hygiene, sleep well, eat well, have good personal relationship with others. Then when Professor Shea came on, he talks about all of us should just say, you are well. So at that end, you are ill at this end. At a point in time, all of us will be at a distress point. So how do we make sure we do not get to that point? So sir, can you maybe like 2-3 sentences before our time goes up, tell us what we can actually do? You can't tell, you see, it's like you say smoking is bad, you said so. We all know that smoking is bad. And we know that most male doctors smoke. And they're the ones that treat patients with, yes. So, they smoke and they drink, so it tells us these things. It comes in here and it comes out this way. So can you just tell us real, fact, how can we maintain our mental health? So that when we're in distress, I went somewhere yesterday and she was like, Doctor, are you ready to listen to me? Doctor has our own issues. I have my own. But I could see that. As I was going home, I was now thinking, she said so many things, but I was, on the inside, I was now thinking that this woman, is it that she's saying at what age? She's had maybe her husband wants to Japan. So you know what that means. If at around 60 the man wants to leave the country, so they are selling house, they are doing this, they are doing that, that can be a lot of mental stress for a woman. So what can we do? I think we need to know that before we leave here today, so that we do not move to that end of the pole. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. As human beings, we have our limitations, we have our challenges, we have our ups and downs. There is nobody that is immune to problems, irrespective of our position in life. We have challenges, and that is why in psychiatry, we don't talk about life stressors. We are not talking about obvious negative issues in life. Even positive life events.
it can act as stressors because of the demands and responsibilities expected of that individual. So, and that is why we need as individuals to know the limit where we are about to snap. And the fact is that as mental health professionals, there is no limit to our advocacy, to educating the members of the public about recognizing signs of mental illness as early as possible. Because of time constraint, I wouldn't go into detail, but we need to know that what are the early signs that this thing is going beyond mental health distress to illness. The first thing is obvious change in behavior of the individual. Obvious change in behavior. The individual will become anything unnecessarily snap